Embracing failure, the counterintuitive path to extraordinary success. Welcome to the Black CEO Podcast. Today, we're embarking on a journey that will challenge your perspective, ignite your creativity, and quite possibly change the trajectory of your life. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing CJ Sims, a visionary entrepreneur whose insights have the power to revolutionize the way we approach learning, innovation, and personal growth. CJ's impact on making the world a better place through her unwavering dedication to lifelong learning and creative problem solving is nothing short of awe inspiring. Her methods have transformed countless lives and businesses, and today we're going to dive deep into the valuable lessons she shared. Imagine for a moment that everything you thought you knew about success was wrong. What if I told you that the key to unlocking your full potential isn't avoiding mistakes, but actively seeking them out? That failure, far from being something to fear, is actually your greatest teacher. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, heart racing, palms sweaty. Below you lies the vast unknown, a sea of possibilities and potential failures. Most people would step back, retreat to the safety of familiar ground. But what if instead you took a deep breath and jumped? That's exactly what CJ Sims did when she embarked on her journey of lifelong learning and creative exploration. And let me tell you, the results were nothing short of extraordinary. Now I can almost hear the collective intake of breath. Embrace failure? That sounds terrifying. And you're absolutely right, it is. But here's the thing, that fear, that discomfort, that's where the magic happens. That's where growth occurs. And that's precisely what CJ discovered on her path to success. Let's break this down. CJ's philosophy centers around three key principles: being a lifelong learner, staying open to new experiences, and constantly feeding your creativity. These might sound simple on the surface, but when applied consistently and courageously, they have the power to revolutionize your life and career. First, let's talk about lifelong learning. In our rapidly changing world, the idea that education ends when we leave school is not just outdated, it's downright dangerous. CJ emphasizes that to stay relevant, to stay ahead of the curve, we must cultivate a voracious appetite for knowledge. But here's where CJ's approach differs from the conventional wisdom. She doesn't just advocate for learning from books or courses. No, she pushes us to learn from every experience, every failure, every awkward moment. She shared a story about a time when she pitched an idea to a room full of investors and completely bombed. Most people would have crawled under a rock and never shown their face again, but not CJ. Instead, she dissected that failure. She analyzed every uncomfortable pause, every skeptical look, every question she couldn't answer. And you know what? That failure became the foundation for her next big success. She refined her pitch, filled the gaps in her knowledge, and came back stronger than ever. This brings us to the second principle: staying open to new experiences. It's easy to get comfortable in our routines, to stick to what we know, but CJ challenges us to constantly push our boundaries. She shared how she makes it a point to try something new every single week, no matter how small. One week, she decided to learn juggling. Now, picture a successful entrepreneur standing in her living room, dropping balls left and right, probably looking ridiculous. But CJ didn't care about looking silly. She cared about stretching her brain, about creating new neural pathways. And guess what? That silly juggling exercise led to a breakthrough in how she approached multitasking in her business. The lesson here isn't about becoming a world-class juggler. It's about being willing to look foolish, to be a beginner, to embrace that uncomfortable feeling of not being good at something. Because that discomfort, that's the feeling of your comfort zone expanding. That's the feeling of growth. Now, let's talk about the third principle: feeding your creativity. In our efficiency obsessed world, it's easy to dismiss creativity as a luxury, something we'll get to when we have time. But CJ argues that creativity isn't just a nice to have, it's essential for success in any field. She shared a fascinating story about how she solved a major business problem by taking up watercolor painting. Yes, you heard that right. She was struggling with a complex supply chain issue, and no amount of spreadsheets or meetings was solving it. So, on a whim, she signed up for a watercolor class. At first, it seemed completely unrelated to her business challenges. But as she learned to blend colors, to create depth and perspective on the canvas, something shifted in her brain. She started seeing her supply chain not as a linear process, but as an interconnected ecosystem. This new perspective led to an innovative solution that not only solved the immediate problem, but revolutionized her entire business model. The takeaway? Creativity isn't just about making pretty pictures or writing poetry. It's about training your brain to make new connections, to see patterns where others see chaos. And the more you feed that creativity, the more innovative and adaptable you become in every area of your life. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's all well and good, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not trying to revolutionize an industry. How does this apply to me? And that's a fair question. But here's the thing. These principles aren't just for CEOs or startup founders. They're for anyone who wants to live a richer, more fulfilling life. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from trying something new because you were afraid of looking foolish? How often have you shut down a creative impulse because it didn't seem practical? How many opportunities for growth have you missed because you were too comfortable in your routine? CJ's message is clear. Every one of those moments is a missed opportunity for growth, for discovery, for becoming a better version of yourself. And the beautiful thing is, it's never too late to start. So here's the challenge CJ poses to all of us. For the next 30 days, commit to learning something new every single day. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's learning a new word or trying a new recipe or watching a video about a topic you know nothing about. The important thing is to stretch your brain, to push yourself out of your comfort zone just a little bit each day. And here's the kicker. Document your failures. Yes, you heard that right. Keep a failure journal. Every time you try something and it doesn't work out, write it down. But don't just record what went wrong. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this? How can I use this experience to grow? This simple practice does two powerful things. First, it reframes failure from something to be feared into something to be valued. Second, it trains your brain to look for lessons and opportunities in every experience, good or bad. But CJ doesn't stop there. She challenges us to take it a step further. Once a week, do something that scares you. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you admire for advice. Maybe it's sharing one of your creative projects with the world. Whatever it is, do it with the full knowledge that you might fail and do it anyway. Now, I know this sounds daunting. Believe me, when CJ first shared this challenge, I felt a knot in my stomach. But then she said something that changed my perspective entirely. She said, comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you feel uncomfortable, celebrate. It means you're growing. Let that sink in for a moment. What if instead of running from discomfort, we ran towards it? What if we saw every awkward moment, every failure, every setback as a sign that we're on the right track? How would that change the way we approach our lives, our careers, our relationships? This is the mindset that has propelled CJ to incredible heights in her career and personal life. And it's a mindset that's available to all of us if we're brave enough to embrace it. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought from CJ. She said, the biggest risk in life isn't failing, it's getting to the end and realizing you never truly lived. So I ask you, are you living or are you just existing? Are you growing or are you stagnating? Are you embracing the discomfort of growth or are you hiding in the false security of your comfort zone? The choice is yours. But remember, every moment you spend in comfort is a moment you're not growing. Every failure you avoid is a lesson you're not learning. Every creative impulse you ignore is an innovation that will never see the light of day. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you go back to your routine, to the safety of the known? Or will you take that leap, embrace the discomfort, and see where it takes you? CJ Sims showed us that when we commit to lifelong learning, when we stay open to new experiences, and when we constantly feed our creativity, we unlock potential we never knew we had. We become more resilient, more innovative, and ultimately more alive. The question isn't whether you have this potential within you. You do. The question is, are you brave enough to unlock it? As you leave this talk today, I challenge you to do one thing that scares you. Take one small step outside your comfort zone. Learn one new thing. And when you do, pay attention to how it feels. That discomfort, that's not something to run from. That's the feeling of your world expanding, of your mind growing, of your potential unfurling. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every success story started with a willingness to fail. Your journey to becoming the best version of yourself starts now with the very next choice you make. So what will that choice be? Will you choose comfort or will you choose growth? Will you choose safety or will you choose possibility? The decision is yours and it starts right now. Thank you for listening. Now go out there and fail spectacularly because In those failures, you'll find the seeds of your greatest successes.